G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here, and look, it's late in the afternoon. It's what are we looking at? Oh gee, it's 20 to 8, right? That's Eastern Standard Daylight Saving Time, so it's actually 20 to 7 in real time, and I cannot pretend to be sober. However, I am motivated to make a YouTube movie. So she's a malt liquor video. I'm back onto drinking Coopers. Dundee Pale Ale is still available in the shops, but I really sort of, I can't deal with the political incorrectness of drinking beer that comes from New York that's cheaper than beer from South Australia. Therefore, I'm paying more money for the South Australian beer because it's got a lower carbon footprint, because it has not crossed the Pacific. Anyway, what I'd like to talk to you about is the sequel to a movie I made probably about a bit over a year ago for Adam Shumpus XXX. Now, Adam Shumpus XXX has, for a temporary period of time, forsworn YouTube. Now, I don't know why he's gone off YouTube. He says he's got to relocate to a different location. I tried to joke with him and say, unless you're looking at stripy sunlight, then you should be able to work a YouTube channel even from a mobile phone. So surely Adam Shumpus XXX can be watching this. Now, stripy sunlight, here where I live, that's kind of like code talk for having bars on the windows. If you're looking at stripy sunlight, it means you're in the big house. And Adam didn't actually deny that such was the case, so who knows. But anyway, over a year ago, Adam and I got into a discussion on whether it's better to be selfless. And when we were in that discussion, I explained to him about the time I was home invaded. And when I was home invaded, there was this person that I had deeply annoyed. I'd sent him a text message that pissed him off. And he spent weeks getting cranky. And when he got cranky, he came driving up here. He parked his car at the foot of the hill at the bottom of my driveway before 6 o'clock in the morning, and he spent at least 2 hours walking up the hill and creeping around my place, working out what his moves were going to be and how he was going to come and surprise me. And as I explained to Adam, just by synchronicity, as I put my hands on the doorknobs and went to open the doors of my hut, this murderously enraged individual ripped the doors open, and that threw my right hand onto the handle of a knife, bloody big knife too. A knife with a blade more than 12 inches long, 3 inches deep, razor sharp, like a bread slicing knife. And as I had one hand on the knife and one hand on this guy's chest, I knew that all the combat textbook recommendations said that my best possible manoeuvre would be to push against his upper chest, pick up the knife and stick it up under his diaphragm and whittle my initials on the left ventricle of his heart as he tried to cross my threshold, because my little hut is my castle. And he was invading me. And as I was in that instant, I looked into his eyes and his pupils were fully 100% dilated at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I knew as I looked at him that he had already decided that he would kill me if necessary. And I also knew I could not explain this to the magistrate. "Oh, yes, Your Honour. There I was. I opened the doors. I was faced with a drug-crazed lunatic. His pupils were fully dilated. I knew he was going to try and kill me, therefore I killed him. Because I was frightened." No, that would not have worked. I would have had to do about, 7 to 15 years of stripy sunlight for killing the prick because he wanted to rip the doors off my lawn locker. Is it worth killing somebody for ripping the doors off that thing? I really don't think it is. Okay, so 3 times in 10 minutes I decided not to kill him. And eventually, after ripping me phone to pieces, letting him punch me in the head, well, he ripped my phone to pieces and then he punched me in the head a few times, once, shouted at me, threatened to punch me again. I had to swallow a whole lot of humble pie. But eventually when he realised that he'd been angry at me for something that was invalid, something I hadn't done or thought or planned on, his entire rage was delusional. When he realised that, he spent the next 2 hours soldering my telephone handset back together so it would work again, because I was organised and there was an appointment for a state regional radio station to ring me up so that I could talk about why it's a stupid idea to beat children. And when I explained that to him, that the biggest thing I was cranky with was that he'd busted my phone on the day that the radio station wanted me to broadcast about the wrongness of beating children, then he fixed my phone and then he fucked off. And the story got around, you know, and he was obviously having some kind of a intellectual, psychological, emotional breakdown. And afterwards, after home invading the fool on the hill, he left the district and he stayed away for about 2 years. And then he came back. And I've been avoiding him and he's been avoiding me. And here's the sequel. 3 weeks ago, I was visiting a friend and the guy who ripped the door off my hut showed up. And I didn't talk to him. And I didn't acknowledge him. And I smiled politely at mine host because I was visiting somebody else's house. And I just gathered my stuff and I left 3 weeks ago. That's part A of the story. Part B of the story is that there was a rock and roll festival on at the local alternative lifestyle community. And this particular bloke who ripped the doors off my hut, he lives on the alternative lifestyle community. He's got a site there. He's a unit holder there. So they can't really kick him out unless he does something really bad. Now, in the aftermath of the Rock and Roll Festival, when a lot of people were feeling a little bit wasted, he went for a walk and he found a lady's bikini bottom. Now, this guy's 62, I'm 52, right? He's 62. But he likes to think that any woman older than 19 is too old for him to be interested in. So he finds a woman's bikini bottom on the ground beside the river near the rock concert on the alternative lifestyle community. And because he thought it was a clever idea, he picked up the woman's bikini bottom and he tied it to the waistband of his trousers, shorts, strides, I really don't know the details. He then disported himself as if he was celebrating his kill, as if a sweet young thing had voluntarily divested herself of her bikini bottoms and entertained him in the throes of passion. So, that's what he did a couple of weeks ago. Now, he's 62 and I'm 52, and I didn't actually kill him 3 times in 3 minutes when I had the chance, because I couldn't explain it to my God theory and I couldn't explain it to the magistrate. Oh, I'm sorry, Creator. I killed this prick because he frightened me. No, I couldn't do that. Easier to get a punch in the head. So, time goes on, Cosmic Scoreboard gets even with him. The 25-year-old, whose girlfriend owned the bikini bottoms, decided that he was going to take issue with this. And he took the ding-a-ling and he kicked, punched and beat his scrotum to the point that the ding-a-ling was in hospital and damn near lost a testicle. As punishment for pretending to have been entertained by a sweet young thing, in that he disported himself wearing somebody else's girlfriend's bikini bottom, recognisable, tied to his trousers. Okay, that's frontier justice, that's how it goes. So the ding-a-ling goes to the hospital and he doesn't quite lose the testicle, but, you know, he's pretty sick for a while. And he may have actually been recovering when he and I crossed paths. I don't know. Maybe it all happened after I crossed paths with him. But anyway, when he comes out of hospital, he decides that seeing as he's not an Aboriginal and the bloke that kicked his balls out through his nose is not an Aboriginal, therefore he would go for a traditional Aboriginal punishment, and the 62-year-old took off with a fish spear to visit the 25-year-old's house, camp, where he lived. He arrived there, he yelled, he shouted, he threw his fish spear. He hit the 25-year-old in the thigh with his fish spear. Now, I don't know whether it was a single-prong fish spear with a barb or whether it was a three-prong fish spear. However, he speared a bloke. The story as I have it is that the next thing that happened was once he lost his spear, because it was stuck in the other fella's leg, then either the young fella whose girlfriend had been so insulted, or the young fella's friend who was on the situation and wasn't prepared to watch his comrade being speared by an old fool. Anyway, the dingaling had his collarbone broken by a square-bladed shovel as he was knocked to the ground. And while he was lying flat on the ground with one collarbone broken by a shovel, he then got his other arm broken in 3 places as the shovel blade came down against his arm on the ground. So he's now, as far as I know, in hospital. Pinned and plated on one side, sewn up, held together in a sling on the other side, and he's 62 with no friends, wondering how the fuck do you live alone on an alternative lifestyle community with both arms in a sling. So that, Adam Shumpus XXX, is the grand sequelae to the day when I had a home invasion. And I didn't do anything to get even with that bloke. Not a single fucking thing. But because he is who he is, and he lives his life the way he lives it, and he sees it the way he sees it, and he does the shit that he does, his life is fucking miserable. And my life is pretty cool. Okay? I am the fool on the hill. I am a hillbilly hermit, and I am a mad scientist. But when somebody comes and fucking home invades me, inside of 4 years, they get their just desserts and I don't have to do jack shit. They immediately go away and I get along with my life. So yeah, it is demonstrably better to be selfless. All of the time. The idea is to trust that the creator of the universe that can make a butterfly totally decorative, doesn't last long, spends years making it, but it's there. The creator of the universe that operates the controls of a continuous hydrogen fusion reaction 93 million miles away from where I live so that I get enough light and enough heat, and unless some stupid fucking asshole burns too much fossil fuel and pumps too much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, then everything's been really fucking good for 50 or 100,000 years. I trust that creator of the universe to run the Cosmic Scoreboard Effect to the stage where I don't need to worry about self-bracket-ish, close bracket defence. Self-ish defence is still being selfish, and being selfish is the only true sin and the only true Satan. You work it out. Sit down there and analyse it. Any kind of possible sin comes under the heading of selfishness. And that selfish, stupid, silly 62-year-old idiot got one collarbone and the other arm broken. All because he wanted to pretend that he'd been fucking a teenager. And then he wouldn't let it rest. Sometimes it's really fucking interesting. Being the fool on the hill. You don't have to fucking do anything, all you have to do is pay attention. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Malt liquor video. And that's a 6-pack for the afternoon. Ciao.